I think that there is an opportunity to us to kind of be analytical, but also kind of live around here. When you interact with someone, and that's the practice that's very very hard because we don't have the skills in medical school.
David Spiro, the host of HUMED, Human Medicine, and this is an opportunity for all of us to hang out and hear stories of healthcare providers and how medicine affects them as humans. And we are all humans. And some people believe we live amongst aliens. I am definitely not an alien. But anyway, we're starting off our HUMED episode and our HUMED journey and interviewing friends and colleagues. And I am so honored to have Dr. Pele Yu spend time with us. And before we get into who he is, some of my favorite interactions with colleagues are people I've known across institutions. And we met in the state of Alabama at the University of Alabama Birmingham Children's Hospital, or Alabama Children's Hospital, working. I was moonlighting and I was a PEM fellow, and I think Pele was working also in the after hours area. And then I was at a meeting here at Arkansas Children's where I'm a professor in pediatric emergency medicine, and I looking at this guy across the way. I'm like, do I know that guy? He looks so familiar. And it was Dr. Pele Yu. So Pele is faculty with us, and he has been on an informatics journey. So he's involved in bringing information technology to the interface of clinical medicine, and he's also on a functional medicine wellness journey. So he's complicated in a good way. And I'm going to turn it over to Pele to introduce himself.
Yeah. All right. Yeah. Thanks, Dave. Yeah. So when you and I met, I was doing a fellowship in informatics there. So that's how I got started. So yeah, I'm Pele. I grew up in the Philippines. Came here in '93 to do a pediatric residency, and I did that in Milwaukee. And yeah, and after Milwaukee, I did community pediatrics in South Carolina. That's where my daughter was born. And that's how my journey as a physician started. And yeah, and to did a fellowship in outcomes research, researching on health outcomes of hospitals, adopting health IT, and uh, and I've been doing informatics since 2005, and implemented three major electronic health records in three major uh, pediatric hospitals in the nation, and now I'm with David here at Arkansas Children's in Arkansas Children's Hospital, and it's been great, and the journey has been really, really great. Seeing how technology has shifted, and now we're looking into this AI, and I'm kind of just really blessed in the opportunity. So yeah, and it's fascinating to be a physician because we have this opportunity to, I mean, observe the patient, touch the patient in the time that they're so vulnerable. They trust us. And how I translate that in informatics is that the healthcare system is the system, is the patient, and the system includes human beings, systems, policies, regulation, and then you weave in technology so we can continue to be good doctors, and however that means. And so,
And I for the audience to know, I spent 8 to 10 years in the tech startup world as well, as part of my journey. So I've always loved the idea of being an early adopter and innovator in medicine. There's so much in the medical world that's broken. But I want to get back to what we're really here for, which is telling a story. And I think I roped Pele into joining us today. Didn't fully know what this is all about, but now you do. And but almost everyone I know has a story to tell, and I would love to hear a story that Pele has that he could share with us.
Yeah. So the stuff that you were talking about being human, Dave, I think that, again, I'm filled with gratitude as a physician because it allows me uh, to think differently about things, uh, and also having the privilege to uh, explore areas where you want to go and actually execute it. And the way I would frame being a physician is that there's so much opportunity. You can be a physician and become a leader. You can be a physician and become a musician. You can be a physician and become a podcaster. You could become a physician and become an administrator, a technology person, a Buddhist, wannabe in my case, and trying to figure things out, figure things out, and yeah, so that's probably where I wanted to touch as how uh, part of me as a physician, um, really trying to connect with my own humanity. I just me myself, and the stuff that I grew up in, and how the thread of being a physician continues to be sort of the common denominator across the stages. I would say that I've been a physician since I graduated medicine in '91. It's been a long time, and I could say that. Uh,
Are we the same age? Are you in your mid to late 50s?
hey man, I'm turning 60 this year.
When?
This November, I'm turning 60. So I was born in 1965.
Yeah, so was I. I turned
Uh,
60 in June.
I see. So
So,
yeah,
but we also graduated medical school the same year, so we're
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 about the same.
connected.
Cool, man.
We're connected.
Yeah,
Are you Jewish?
I know. So I grew up Roman Catholic,
Okay, that was
and
a joke. That
oh,
was a joke.
sorry.
'Cause,
Yeah,
a lot of similarities. So tell me about your story. I'm curious. Like what?
I envision myself to be very curious, and that's the reason why, with kind of childlike like curiosity, and I've always wanted to do stuff that I'm curious. Curious to be a physician. I wanted to be a physician. Curious to go to the United States. I went to the United States. Uh, Curious about pediatrics. Became a pediatrician. Curious about primary care practice. Did that. As the internet went in, curious about technology and how it can help us become better docs. Uh, and as I raised my family, I always wondered, like, how can I be an example for them? Uh, so that then they can also realize oneself. And I realized that realizing yourself is really sort of like this. Every stage in your life, you're always figuring out where's the next one, and the only thing I can say is that uh, the one that's guided me throughout is just hunger in the belly about things that I don't know. So in areas where I don't know that I'm curious, that's where I can navigate. Um, um, and for some people, that might be an area of difficulty. But for me, I kind of thrive there because as I learn more, I get so excited. So I get so excited about technology, the interface between humans and decision making, consciousness. Very very interested about consciousness and how human consciousness kind of links to this technology that we're developing with AI, machine learning. Uh, I'm interested about uh, spirituality. Again, I grew up Roman Catholic, and as I was growing up and becoming more mature in my life, I always had this little yin and yang as to how do I want to raise my kids. Do I want to raise them in the Roman Catholic faith, um, and in the end, I chose to introduce them to that, but let them decide how they wanted to figure out their faith. because for me, I've also learned about other things in my reading uh, and life experience, and now I'm very much interested in Buddhist philosophy, which is very, very interesting to me. Uh, and I think it aligns well with being a physician, how prescriptive you are in describing all the different variables, and there's a way for you to do it. So that's been, I think, in my middle age, going out to this time for over 20 years, it's been something that's kind of growing in me. Uh, uh, the meditation, yoga, um, it's been a daily learning for me. And so I teach meditation in the community. Uh, and yeah, and it's been so fulfilling for me to do that.
And you're also doing something. So for those of us that are naive to our training, fellowships are beyond residency. I did a fellowship in emergency medicine. Pele's already described that he's done 2 fellowships, and he's now doing a third one in functional integrative medicine, and that's its own journey.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's a coming back to baseline for me. Um, I've always, you talk about fellowship, so I direct this fellowship in informatics here, but I always tell my fellows, kind of do, what you feel like you're called to do and excited to do, because that's really is like the the opportunity for us physicians. And so for me, I always figured out, like, how can I actually integrate all of these things that I'd like to do in my personal life, so I can arrive, I can work, show up as myself, that I wake up in the morning and I can't wait to go back there, and then come back refreshed in the evening, and play my guitar and then sleep and then wake up and do this thing again, and it's just really, really cool that way. So the Integrative Health Fellowship, I'm very excited because I'm learning things that I've learned all along or knew all along, or the stuff that I didn't know that makes totally sense to me. And so I'm very much interested in that. So I complete that next year, but I'm already exercising it and opening up a clinic later this July. Uh, and we'll see, we'll figure it out, and how to be of service to people who may find that type of healing more, I would say, supportive in their journey. So,
Yeah, what's interesting is as I'm entering my 4th decade of practice as a physician, I've become more aware of the limitations of Western medicine as we practice it uh, in all levels, whether it's in the field that I practice, which is PEDS-ER, or whether it's with my own personal health care. But it's interesting because we graduated medical school in 91, and I went to medical school in San Francisco, which was dealing with the AIDS crisis. That was a big focus of my medical school training. But I can say with almost complete certainty, because memory has a funny way of working, that I learned almost nothing about nutrition, the way I understand nutrition now, diet, nutrition, and I learned almost nothing about sleep. And lots of different ways to think about it, but sleep and diet are cornerstones of health. And um, what's really interesting about hospitals, which, by the way, for the most part, I mean, if you're super sick, you need to be in a hospital and whatnot, but clinics and hospitals were built for the convenience of physicians, right? So we found out that we could see more patients if patients come to us rather than doing home calls. I think that hospitals, when you are a patient in a hospital and spend the night in a hospital, you don't sleep. So your sleep is disrupted. And oftentimes the diet that is served, the food that is served to children and adults in hospitals is of poor quality and not healthy foods in any way, shape, or form. So obviously we have technology like the Aura Ring and other things, but we are still in our infancy of understanding some of this stuff. And Western medicine seems resistant to some of these things. And I know that you had talked about your work with uh, meditation and breathing and mindfulness, which has lots of different meanings. But what have you learned around your journey around what needs to change in medicine? It feels like there needs to be a radical change in the way we're approaching health, all health, but especially pediatric health, which is what we do. You know, I think the audience probably knows that obesity rates have gone through the roof in our careers, and we failed F on the grade A through F. We get an F as healthcare providers for that. Children are developing metabolic syndrome and type 2 diabetes at alarming rates. And children are presenting with high levels of stress in the form of presenting to ERs exponentially higher rates of behavioral health emergencies over the last decades, especially since COVID. And so, how do we fix it, Pele? How do we fix it, and what are you doing to help fix it?
Yeah, that's a really good question, and I always reflect that. I don't have the answer, Dave, but I feel that our healthcare is not enough. You talk about our healthcare system in the U.S. being so cost prohibitive, and the measured outcomes are not there compared to other countries. Um, and I was pulling back in time to look at that. Like, I think that the healthcare needs to be nurturing, and there has to be care in that. So you mentioned about our kids exponentially having behavioral health problems, and the second or third cause of death is suicidality, right? In our kids that we see in a children's hospital. There's got to be a way for us to do that, and I think that part of it would be society, right? And near to the patient is the nuclear family. So be it the dad or the mom who's with them, or the community, or something that holds that. And so when we treat our kids, we kind of need to treat the vessel, container, the unit. It's like a triadic approach, like you treat the patient, but you also, how you go into the ER. You go in, you first make interaction with whoever's with the patient, so that then the patient can calm down a little bit, and then you get that rapport. That kind of needs to happen, and our healthcare system doesn't provide that yet, and I think for the integrative health, that's what I'd like to do. I'd like to have more time with the family and patients, and talk about what's really important to them. I can't solve all the societal problems, but it's possible that I'm able to solve that. And you did mention about sleep, nutrition. We're very, very prescriptive, but we don't know the predispositions or the prerequisites of how people kind of navigate through those areas of health. And it's possible that we can help figure those things out and just give them the little bit direction. And health is not really about a prescription, right? It's about like learning, where the areas are, and helping them. And for me, it really is the nurturing part. So I'd like the latter part of my healthcare advocacy career to be nurturing to me personally, uh, and to the families that we care for. Because like when we go treat patients, sometimes we become so analytical, and I think that there is an opportunity to us to kind of be analytical, but also kind of live around here. When you interact with them, and that's the practice that's very, very hard, because we don't have the skills in medical school. And but it is possible, right? It's possible. And for the lack of a better word, it's really awareness or mindfulness, being present. We need to teach people how to be present in their body, so that then we could feel it. And I think the feeling of being a human being. People call them qualia, Quualia. It's the ability for an organism to feel, to taste, to you know be in this thing. Is the quality of experience that kind of needs to be transferred. And again, the mindfulness word is often used, but it's really about being aware.
I love that word, by the way, qualia. It I'd never heard it before, and it really resonates with me. One of our guests on this show, Dr. Abby Nolder, talked a little bit about her experience being emotional in front of family. She's a surgeon, and we talked about, is it okay to cry in front of a family when you're giving bad news? Can we get to that qualia state? Can we use more of our heart in those moments to let families know that we're experiencing trauma or we're experiencing sadness along with you? And it's funny because I sometimes have to give very bad news to people I don't know in really difficult circumstances, and I have come to accept being okay with being emotional, and I feel like if I allow that to happen, then I just deal with it better rather than sort of keeping it in my cognition, and I repress the rest of it that's really affecting some of this. So I'm just curious about you when you talk about qualia and you talk about bringing the heart into the human side of medicine. What what does it mean to you to be more like that versus cerebral?
Yeah, 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 yeah. So again, I'm a student of mindfulness. I don't think I'm gonna be like super kung fu martial arts Shaolin, level there, but I continue to grow in that aspect. And there's a feeling of knowing your body as you're feeling it. And as I drop in my body, being embodied in as a physician, as a person, as a human being, as I talk to you now, I can feel my body here, uh, and am able to share what I need to share, trusting that I've gone to medical school, gone to residency, I've been for 30 years a physician, that I'm able to share what I need to share, and I can feel the connection, and I could also feel the disruption of that connection, and sometimes dysregulating. But I think that the ability to feel how you feel, uh, and also be able to sense, how the other person is, in this case, the patient, the family, and if I'm lucky enough to be having enough resource that day, then I'm also able to uh, have that cushion of space so that then my experience and that person's experience can rest in awareness of that bigger, bigger space. Um, and if I've achieved that, I feel really good because sometimes I feel the disruption, like when you were saying being cognitive. I can sense when I'm being cognitive, and then I kind of lose. It becomes theoretical. I lose the connection with my patients, and so that's the motivation that I have. Each patient that I do, I uh, try to be in my body, and then uh, open it up and receive, um, and but I do feel some disruptions and very, very tough because we don't have time, like in the 10 or 15-minute stuff. Um, it's just not enough. And so my motivation is that possible that I can have a space that I'm able to do that and actually fulfill that need for me to open up and be able to interact with my patients, with with the families, at that level. And that's I'm very, very excited about, really, and I'm just fortunate that there are ways, because of the position that I'm at now at our organization, that people are open to that idea and able to help me figure things out. So, um, it's a privilege to be able to do that.
Yeah, I felt some beautiful energy. Pele presented the idea of doing an integrative clinic uh, to all of the leaders at the hospital, physician leaders, and it was incredibly well received. And he's also mentoring and working with one of my junior attendings, beautiful lady named Zina Al Haddad, one of our pediatric ER physicians, who's taking a class with Dr. Yu around some of this work. So, very thankful for him on so many different levels. But I wanted to share a quick story that Qualia resonated with me on recently. And it was a case in the ER where a child came in with multiple medical problems and was an ex-preemie and had some chronic lung disease and big problem list, and followed by our pulmonary service. And really, the child was fine. The mother came in with a bunch of different issues, but nothing was really serious. And, part of our job in the pediatric ER is to decide, is this an emergency or not? Does the child look really sick? We need to do something about it or not. And I have found over the course of my career that early on in my career, I think when I was more arrogant and flippant and maybe connected less to my heart, these patients would annoy me. You're right. I would walk in the room. I'm like, your kid is fine. Why are you here? I just don't want to be dealing with you now. I have so many other things I need to be dealing with, which is really ego centric in the way I think about that. And so some of the kids, like this family, you, Pele, and I, David, from a human side, have no idea what these families are living through on a day-to-day basis. Some of them are connected to machines, like to help them breathe, like Dr. Nolder's child. And I just think that what I've learned is I really put on my human hat, or qualia. And when I see these families, I actually intentionally sit down. And I usually sit down next to the child and I just listen. I listen to the families, listen to their stories, develop some shared plans. And this mother came to me after the experience, and she said to me, you are a wonderful person," and I said, "Thank you, but I love your daughter and she's sweet." And she said, "No, you have taken the time to listen to me, and I realize I came in probably for things that I was anxious about, but you listened to me and you really cared." And that in that moment, that was the practice of medicine at its in some of way in its highest form. And your wisdom of bringing it from the head, which is where we learn, and opening up the heart and opening up the body to the experiences of being humans is is the most beautiful part of medicine as I'm entering the last phase of my career.
Yeah, I totally believe that, man. And it's just, you know, and maybe it's hard when we're growing up because we're just trying to figure out ourselves. And it takes to have an ego in order to overcome it. And maybe some of our egos are kind of fully formed a little bit that we'd be able to see, "Hmm, hang on a minute, this one doesn't serve me anymore. And hence I, shall, you know, do this or not pay attention to that as much and figure out how the human connection." So I think that's why medicine or any I would say any profession or advocacy that uh, aims to heal and connect to people is such a great opportunity. The new musicians, artists, people in healthcare, teachers, man, what a great opportunity, because you have that ability to connect with human to human, and it takes a while, really. Like, I've learned that you have to kind of relearn how to connect, and that's necessarily like my experience. I have to learn how to do that, because as I was growing up, I've learned to you know build up the things that I think that I need to do for myself, and I'm just tearing them down. I think the meditation that I'm gonna be doing for the next third of my life would be, what shall I not want? What are the things that I'm not gonna buy? What are the things that I no longer need? And hopefully those are informed by, like, authentic, uh, feelings of, what does it take to be really me.
Just want to say these humid podcasts are incredible ways to get to know the guests, and I every time we talk, Pele, I learn something new about your journey and about you, and I think it's because you lead oftentimes with the heart, and you're a vulnerable human. We need to have you back on the show. There is something that I'm really curious about, but we don't have time today to talk about, which is how we keep the human side of medicine as artificial intelligence rolls into our lives. Because AI is already changing and will continue to change the practice of medicine. But until computers develop consciousness, uh, we still have an edge in terms of all of the different things we were talking about today, and I do want to talk about that, but I also just want to thank you for joining me as one of my first guests on HUMID, and you're an awesome human being, and I think the Integrative Clinic at Arkansas Children's is going to be a hit, and I'm so glad that you are leading. You're an innovator and a leader, and you're a thought provoker and challenging dogma, and so you're my hero. You really are my hero.
Well, thank you, and that's really a great thing. But I'm just, again, trying to connect with who I think I am, and it's awesome. Appreciate so much.
It's beautiful. It's beautiful. And so thank you for joining.
Thanks, David.
I hope you all have a blessed day.
Thanks for listening to HUMED with David Spiro, MD. If you like this episode, make sure you're subscribed on Spotify, Apple, or your favorite podcast platform. The video versions are also available on YouTube. Make sure you subscribe and hit the bell there so that you never miss a future episode.